Hi, welcome to the Wisdom of Your Soul. I'm your host, Janice Mary, and I'm so glad you're back with us during this holiday season. I hope you're having a lot of fun getting prepared for this holiday. A little time to relax maybe and spend time with family is always a great thing. So the last couple of shows, we have been talking about the book, The Magic. And one of the reasons why I really love that book so much is it's just a beautiful way to get into your soul energy. And a lot of people that I talk to will say that they don't, they're not feeling their soul energy, or it's hard for them to understand what I'm talking about. And it really can be, because we can get so caught up in our thought system and basically in our life that we miss the opportunity to connect with the beautiful energy that lives within us. It's really who we are. And our thoughts, they're just very, very entrenched, and we take them very seriously. And so when a thought pops up, if it's something that is really bothersome to us, or something that we've thought before, we tend to kind of latch onto it. So I'll kind of describe it to my clients like, you have your thoughts that run by, and when a disturbing thought that you maybe have thought about before comes through your mind, you tend to grab it and you hold on to it. And when you hold on to that thought, it just creates a whole host of feelings within your body. So the object for us in our spiritual journeys and our journeys here, just to have a much more relaxed and inner peaceful life, is to just think about our thoughts as leaves floating in a lake and watching them go by, or, watching a train go by, or any kind of metaphor that you want to use to just allow thoughts that are a little bit troublesome, that if we grabbed onto would cause kind of a avalanche of feelings that then ruin our day. And so that is really our goal, is to not take our thoughts seriously, because 99.9% of the thoughts that pop up in our mind isn't true. And, we can talk back to our thoughts. That's something that is a technique that I've heard of, that some people, when a bad thought pops up, they just start talking back to it or talking over it. So you can try that. I don't believe that we can really get rid of our thoughts or stop our thoughts. Even in meditation, I find that when I'm meditating, my thoughts are still running. They're just slowing down. So it's almost like the circle that they come in kind of just slows down. Usually in the daytime, the thoughts come in a little quicker, and then when you meditate, they slow down a little bit. So it's really interesting to kind of just be very, very aware of what's happening internally. And it is almost like just another mechanism of the body, just like our digestion, or just the way our mind works. So if we are having thoughts that are troubling to us, we really do want to challenge ourselves. And a lot of spiritual books, a lot of spiritual religions will talk about, really not being invested in thought. And the more that you can do that, the more peace you have. Because if you were to write down, if you were to give yourself just one day and write down everything that came to your mind, not things that you're saying to yourself, but thoughts that just kind of popped up, and you just wrote it down, you would see that 99.9% of it is negative and is not good, and on some level is telling you that you're not good enough, or that something isn't going right in your life, or you're not happy with something in your life. So that's a pretty high number for our thoughts to be in that negative range. And if you think about it too, when we sleep, a lot of our dreams tend to be negative. It's like 95% of our dreams tend to be scary or negative or not so good. So in the same way, our thought system is doing the same thing at night that it does in the daytime. So if we want to look at it that way, it's very interesting. And I have heard Byron Katie say that she feels like a lot of people create daymares, which I think is just a wonderful way to look at it. That during the day, sometimes our thoughts are almost like how we are when we're asleep, that we create these nightmares, but in the daytime while we're awake. And we really have to challenge that. And when we do, you notice such a great internal peace. You just notice that you don't really take your thoughts as seriously, and that you can let them go. And the thoughts that used to get you and used to like maybe take days away from you don't do that anymore. And that you're just a little bit more peaceful. I find I have a lot more energy because my thoughts aren't weighing me down and stressing me out as much as they used to. But they're still there, and they still could be troubling. And if I latched onto them, I would have a much, much harder time. Sometimes I describe it to my clients, think of a Pez dispenser. So when a thought comes up and the Pez comes out, we have the opportunity to take that Pez and hang on to it, or we could just take it and then leave it, and then the next one pops up, and the next one pops up. And that's kind of like our thought system. It's like there's always a thought that's popping up that in a way wants to take away our inner peace. But I promise you, the more you do this, the quicker you go through that Pez dispenser, and then you're just in your inner peace. Or the more you realize that your thoughts are saying things that are just not true about you, that you just get very good at like kind of laughing at them. To kind of like when a thought comes in like, oh, you're just not good enough, or whatever comes up into your mind, that you let that go a little bit easier. And it's such a nice feeling to not get taken in by your thoughts. I remember a time when I thought my thoughts were who I was, and being triggered in such similar ways, and causing myself to react in ways to people that were probably really unnecessary. And so I think that this work is so important for us all to do, is to challenge our thoughts and our belief systems. One of my favorite works is Seth Speaks, and that's by Jane Roberts. And she actually, she kind of channeled this energy, the spiritual energy. I guess it was a guide, and he worked a lot with belief systems. And basically this guide that came through Jane would say that our belief systems are really at the root of our pain. And I really do see that to be true, because underneath any thoughts that are not that great is a belief system. So if you're having thoughts that you're not doing things right, or you're not good enough, there's a belief, in there. And our beliefs come from the world. We're trained that if we don't look a certain way, if we don't have certain things, if we're not successful enough, that we believe that we're not good, we're worthless. And when you connect into the soul energy, or the spirit energy, or God energy, or universal love, whatever you want to call it, when you connect into that energy, you really do feel a difference. You feel, you don't feel that at all. There's just such a knowing that we're all connected, and we're all one, and we're all part of each other, and we're all very, very abundant, very, very abundant. And when you're in the soul energy, you really don't really believe. It's easier not to believe those thoughts that come in. That's the biggest thing. It's easier. So if I'm having a particularly troubling day, I'll just sit down just for a few minutes and just go into that energy so that I could feel better, and so that my soul, my spirit can point out to me exactly why my thoughts are kind of, misleading me, basically. And that's what your soul and spirit energy will do for you. It will bring to mind why your thoughts are not correct. And this can be really hard for us, because I think for a long time, a lot of people feel very much not validated with their thoughts and feelings. And I notice when people come into therapy, for a really long time, before I can even get to this stuff, I have to just validate their thoughts and feelings, because we live in a very invalidating world. And we invalidate each of us because we don't understand our perspectives. And if my perspective is different from your perspective, that there's a tendency to attack it instead of understanding it. So I do feel, and my soul energy, when I go into it, I do feel a very gentle approach. that my soul spirit energy would sit with me with my thoughts and just challenge them in a very motherly, kind way, and not in a way of that you're wrong for thinking what you're thinking, but just that you're mistaken for what you're thinking. And there's never, ever any judgment. It's more like a correction. Like a child, if a child was going to put his or hand on the stove, a mom would come and gently take the hand away from the stove and say, no, no, no. It's kind of what the soul energy does in a very, very gentle way. And because we tend not to be gentle with ourselves, it is very noticeable. It is very noticeable when you sit with your soul energy. So it's very well worth your time and energy that when you're upset, to give yourself a chance to say, okay, if I'm upset, I must have thought something in relation either to other people. Somebody said something and that hurt me, and now I'm off and running. Or something's happened that is creating these negative thoughts in my mind. And from those thoughts, I'm holding on to them and then creating feelings. So if we take 100% responsibility for it, then we can really do this work. If we're constantly blaming other people for it, if we're constantly saying it is other people's fault that I feel this way, then it's harder to do this work, because then you want to keep wanting to change other people. And that never works. I mean, I just think that at some point we have to realize we cannot change other people, nor do we want to. We have to think about, do we want to be changed? Do we want somebody to come into our life and change us? No, we want to be unconditionally accepted. And for us to be unconditionally accepted, we have to learn to unconditionally accept ourselves, which in this world is very, very difficult to do. And that's why I think that we need the help of our soul energy, which is very conveniently located inside each of us. So that just means getting a little bit quiet. And I really have been watching a lot of Byron Katie's work, and she has a really nice way of asking questions to your thoughts and questioning what comes up. And that seems to be very helpful for people. And it is definitely a way to see how faulty our thinking is, and it's a way to see, this belief system is really not real. And so I would definitely give some of her YouTube videos a look at, so that you can learn how to ask yourself the 4 questions. She even has an app, which I downloaded, which is really cool, that you could actually do the work on an app. So when a belief comes into your mind, that you could work through it and get through it. It's a lot of times it's really, really helpful. I know A Course in Miracles challenges thoughts in a very similar way. They'll say everything that you think about another person is really what you think about yourself. Everything is a projection. And as a therapist, we learn about projection, that people project onto other people all the time as a defense mechanism. But a lot of the spiritual work will say that we're projecting all the time, and we're very, very rarely are we living in reality of what's really, really happening, because most of the time we don't ask people. When I ask my clients when they're upset with their husbands or their friends, and they're telling me what they think that this person thinks about them, I will ask them, well, how do you know? How do you know this person thinks? Oh, I just know, I get the feeling, I just know. And I say, well, like what Katie Byron would say is, how do you know that for a fact? Do you know that 100%? Is that 100% true? So we have to say to ourselves, unless someone comes up to us and says it out of their mouth, that we can't know what people are saying or thinking about us, and that we're starting to live in that alternate reality, this fantasy of what we think other people are saying and thinking about us, which is really, really dangerous, but we all do it. So instead of just asking the person, are you thinking this about me? Or, I thought maybe you were thinking this. And, anytime we communicate, we realize, oh my God, I was so off. I was so wrong about that. So it's really in our benefit to check it out with the people in our life, what's really going on. So all these techniques, there are so many techniques to get out of your thoughts. With Eckhart Tolle, he brings us back to the present moment. with Byron Katie, she talks about doing this work and questioning. With Seth Speaks, he works all about our belief systems and how off our belief systems are. And, from my spiritual experience, I just feel this amazing, amazing love that comes through that I know is basically who we are. And it's interesting when I read Katie's story, how she describes the feeling and the love that she feels is what I feel. So again, very validating for me, because it's really, really hard to put into words this experience where you do connect to your soul. And she'll say that it took her years to put into words what she experienced. And I do feel that. I feel like I struggle a lot trying to put into words what it does feel like when you connect to this energy. I just know that we're all capable of it. And when we do it, it just changes our lives and benefits our lives so much. But there is this process of having to really release our thoughts, so that we can stay in that energy. If we get bogged down by our thoughts, it's very hard to reach it. So we always want to realize that there is another way, that there is another way to go, and there's somebody inside of you that's very wise that you can ask for help when it gets bad. So, and the more you ask for help and guidance, the more you'll get it. And you'll get it in the form of pictures, images, thoughts, feelings, and you'll know that it's your soul energy because it's so loving and so kind and so different. So, there are many, many techniques, and, we try to talk about all of them. And we have to remind ourselves daily, because if you don't, you'll just get caught up in your thoughts again. And, that's a tough place to be, But again, you want to not fight with your thoughts and not try to get rid of them. You just want to try to understand that most of them are just not true. So you can kind of talk back to them. A lot of times I'll say to myself, okay, there's that thought again that's going to drive me crazy. I'm going to shelve it because I don't want the ramifications of that thinking. I don't want the feelings, and I don't want how I might act out those feelings. So if I'm thinking something really bad about myself and now I'm feeling really bad, I'm more at risk to being irritable and grouchy and really just not fun to be around. Or I might eat too much or drink too much, or, there's always some kind of consequence for when we're not feeling that great, because it's almost like self-attack, and then self-attack leads into self-attack actions, which we don't really like. And again, the soul is not judging any of that, and would say, if we believed what you believed about yourself, we'd be feeling just as bad. But the good news is that what you believe about yourself is so far from the truth, and it's so limiting. So when you feel that in your energy, when you just take a moment to feel that and you go within, that's a life-changing experience for you. And the soul has so much to teach us. It teaches us that we're eternal, and all the knowings. We're eternal, and we're abundant, and we're love. And when we're in that, that's what we can extend to each other. And when we extend that to each other, the world feels like a so much safer place. There's no death, so there's nothing to fear. And the body is just our beautiful car that we get to ride in for this one small journey, and that we'll be back again if we choose. And nothing bad is ever happening to us. And even when the body dies, as painful as that can be, that it's a rebirth back into spirit. When we're born, being born is a painful experience for the mom and the child. But it's something that's forgotten because of what happens once we're born into this beautiful life. And then when we die, we're born into the spirit life. So when we really know that to be true, there's not fear. There's not a lot of fear. And then you don't live your life in fear of dying, which frees you up. It gives you a lot of freedom in your life. So, a lot of great things when we connect to our soul energy. I was watching this show called The Art Detectives, and you might really like it. It's on Amazon Acorn. And it's such a great show. So what they do is that they find paintings that there's no signature on them. And they try to figure out by what the painting looks like, if it could be a famous artist. And a lot of times it's the work of a famous artist, like maybe when they were younger, when they first started out. But this morning when I was kind of thinking, well, what would I talk about today? That image came to my mind of that show. And that's exactly how our soul will work. And that's how our soul energy talks to us. So the image, when I saw that show, I immediately knew what they were talking about, because it's a great analogy for our thought system, what happens in this show. So in this show, in this art detective show, when they find a painting, usually it's dirty and it's covered. They overlay it with paint, and it's just very hard to see the real painting. It might be 500 years old, this painting, so there's a lot of varnish on it. You could barely see the painting on it. So this guy will take it to this other man who is trained in restoring paintings. And so he brings him the painting, and very lovingly, with like a cotton swab, he'll take these solutions and just rub it on the painting. And you'll see as the dirt and all the aging comes off the painting, you start to see the beautiful painting that emerges. And after he's done cleaning it, it's like night and day. The painting just comes alive, and it's beautiful. And So when I was watching this, I could feel my soul saying, when we lift our thought system and we clear our thought system, and when we no longer believe it, that's what emerges. It's this beautiful painting, and that's you. And I just thought that was such a beautiful analogy for what it feels like when we really let go of our beliefs, and the gentleness of the man who cleans these paintings. He's just such a soulful person. And that's kind of how our soul is with us. Very, very gently, our soul will just a little bit at a time erase, some of these belief systems, erase some of these thoughts for us, and help us to see what's really underneath there. So our soul would never be harsh with us, and would never be mean about how we think or what we think. It's a very gentle process. So the more you get a little quiet, you don't even have to meditate. You just quiet down and just ask. You'll get images, and you'll see things, and you'll feel things. And if you keep asking, help me with my thoughts, help me to release these thoughts, help me to challenge these thoughts, help me to see the truth of these thoughts, your soul will absolutely answer your request. How do I know that? Because that's what my soul did for me, or my spirit energy, or whatever you want to call it. I don't even want to label it that much anymore, because I don't want to turn away some people. So keep going within and asking. So I did want to get to our exercise in the magic for this week. I hope you guys have been doing it, because again, this is a great way to connect to your soul, because it's something that you can add to your thoughts. And it's really just a new way of thinking. It's a new way of being. And, anytime that we're adding, things that affect us in a really positive, beautiful way, that's something that our soul is kind of written by our soul. So I really do feel like Rhonda Bryne, when she wrote this book, was very connected to her soul energy. So far we have done a couple of exercises. The first one we did was every day you write 10 blessings down. So 10 things that you're grateful for. So you could do this every day. And the second thing that we did was the rock exercise, that you get your favorite rock or your favorite crystal, and every night before you go to bed, you just say one thing, you name one thing that happened the day that you're grateful for, and you say thank you. So you could do both of those things. You can add it on, so you do 10 blessings a day, and then every night before you go to bed, you do your rock. So the third thing is about relationships. And, we all, want to work on our relationships. So what she would like you to do in the practice number 3 is choose 3 of your closest relationships and collect a photograph for each person. So pick 3 relationships that you have, whether it's your children or your spouses or your boyfriend, girlfriends, whatever. And with the photo in front of you, write 5 things that you're most grateful for about each person in your journal or on your computer. Begin each sentence with the magic words, thank you, their name, and what you specifically are grateful for. So you would just write the 5 things and then what you're most grateful for about each person. And then you want to carry these 3 photographs with you today and put them in a place where you will see them often. And look at these look at on at least 3 occasions and speak into the person's face in the photograph and thank them, saying the magic words, thank you. And before you go to sleep, take your magic rock in one hand and the magic words, say thank you for the best thing that happened during the day. So that's what you want to do for today. And so if you have your 3 people, you're going to write down 5 things about each one that you love. Shouldn't be too hard. If you do get stuck with it, ask your soul energy to give you some images, things that you're grateful for that maybe is just not coming to mind. And carry the photos with you and look at the people throughout the day and say thank you. That is definitely a relationship changer. We're so focused all the time on what we're doing wrong, and sometimes we're focused on what other people are doing wrong too. And, that definitely affects how we feel about the people in our life. And, the more we can have the perspective of the soul, which is definitely one of gratitude, then it's easy to see how good people are. For me, going into the soul energy is easier than doing it the other way around. But for other people, it's easier for them to do exercises like this that bring them into the soul energy. So whatever way works for you is what you want to do, because you don't want to get tangled into a belief system that is just like being caught in a net and not being able to get out of. You really just want to see thoughts for what they are, that they're not you, that they are the conditioned responses to your perceptions. And most of your perceptions throughout your life, unfortunately, have been off, mine included. When we perceive things as a child, we're always taking things so personally. So our thoughts record that like a computer and then keep spitting out the same thoughts and the same hurts to us over and over again. And that is not what we want to believe about ourselves. And, I'll say to my clients, I'll say to myself, well, would I think about this about anybody? Would I be as hard on anybody else that I am about me? And the answer is no. And would I have anyone live up to the standards that I have set for myself? Would I require that of anyone? So that they could feel good about themselves? And the answer would be no. But I do feel like we need the help of our soul energy at this point to really help us see that there is a different way and there's a knowing. So when you go into that energy, if you're feeling tired or upset or if you're not feeling good, just go into your soul energy and see what comes up, see what images you get. Think of that TV show, The Art Detectives, and how beautiful, once the thought system is lifted, what's left is just beauty and art, and it's just amazing. So, give that a try and see how that works for you. And as always, if you'd like, you could reach out. You can email me at janismart40@yahoo.com. So many people have, and I'm grateful to hear from you. And let me know how you're doing with the practice of the magic. And if you have any questions on connecting to your soul, I would love to help you. It's such an exciting, amazing thing and an exciting, amazing gift that you can give to yourself, especially during this holiday season when we're with family and it's very easy to get triggered. Usually those triggers, the childhood triggers, are very, very deep entrenched within us. And sometimes when we're with family, those childhood triggers just trigger. When I see people after the holidays, they tend to be a little worse because they feel and think things that their family feel and think about them. And that may not be true. I think we're just projecting on each other all the time and not doing so well. So I would love to help you out with that. I still have my mediumship course online, a beginning mediumship course, if you're interested in that. Also reach out. I would love to share that with you too. And just have a very happy and blessed holiday, and keep connecting to the wisdom of your soul, because you are very, very wise. Don't take my word for it. Your soul's waiting for you to jump into that energy and to benefit from it. So do this for yourself, and then you can let me know how it's going. Okay, have a beautiful holiday, and we'll talk after.